Still a liquid, okay, and that is important, and it's under pressure, okay? Then this coil basically punches through to your freezer, and the refrigerant goes through something called an expansion valve, which releases all of the pressure, and that makes the refrigerant immediately evaporate back into a vapor form. Well, this is called a phase change, and as this changing vapor moves through the coil inside the freezer, it absorbs a huge amount of heat from your food, thus freezing it. It's just that simple. Most refrigerator freezers are essentially the same. That means we can generalize our approach. For instance, since the door bins spend a good bit of time swinging out to your nice warm kitchen, only store items up here that you'll use quickly or that are less likely to sustain damage from partial thawing and refreezing. Good examples would be nuts, coffee beans, tightly wrapped of course, butter, and bread. Now, if we're inside the main vessel, that's better. Now, first thing I want you to promise me is that you will always keep a freezer thermometer inside here so that you will know that your box is sticking to 0 or colder. That is crucial. Now, unlike refrigerators, freezers work best when they are full. But if you just pack stuff in here, you'll never really be able to use the space, and you'll never be able to find anything. So you need some organization. What I do is I use organizational tools that I get at hardware and office supply store, wire shelving and whatnot, so that I can place things in different parts of the freezer and move things around. I also like to stash 2 to 3 water bottles in here to take up space and act as heat sinks in the unlikely event of a power outage. If I need more room, I just move these down to the refrigerator. All this means that I can move stuff around and quickly get to the coldest spot. It's usually dead center in the bottom. That way, I can always slide in items to freeze, like our unwrapped steaks, which will fit right in on a pan. Now, since the pan is aluminum, and aluminum is a great conductor, it will quickly pull the heat out of the steaks. Now, if your freezer isn't already on its very lowest setting, put it there now. If the door stays shut, these steaks should be ready to package in 4 to 6 hours.
Is this yours?
I've never seen that before in my life. Where were we? Oh, yes, our peas. To freeze the peas, remove the now moist paper toweling and freeze uncovered in the pan on the floor of the freezer, if at all possible. If you can't get to the floor of the freezer, as is often the case with a side-by-side model, just keep in mind that a single layer is the most important thing. So divide them into 2 smaller vessels and layer them on the lowest shelves that you can access. Now, when these are rock hard in about 2 hours, we'll talk about storage.
Sir, if you're not going to purchase, we're going to have to ask you to stop cutting holes in the appliances.
Oh, bother. If you've ever opened your freezer to find a cloud of hovering fog, then you have walked in on the defrost cycle, which keeps the inside of your freezer from looking like Ice Station Zebra. Have you ever wondered, though, where's that moisture coming from? Well, unfortunately, at least some of it is coming out of your food. Now, you wouldn't think that water would be able to evaporate straight out of frozen food, but it can. You see, freezer air is so dry that it can literally rip water molecules off of frozen food in a process called sublimation. The result, frost on the sides of your freezer and freezer burn on your food. This is especially a bad thing for meat, which can become so leathery and dry that basically it becomes unpalatable. There is, however, one way to prevent this: proper packaging. Freezer-bound meats, such as chopped steaks, fillets, and cutlets, should be wrapped in at least 2 full layers of plastic wrap, and then that should be sealed inside at least 2 full layers of heavy-duty aluminum foil. And you might want to crimp in the ends just to ensure that no air can get in there. And, of course, you want to label that with a magic marker, the name of the product, and, of course, the freezing date. By freezing our peas on a pan, loose like this, we have created what in the industry would be called IQF peas, or individual quick frozen. They're convenient because, if properly kept, we can just dose them out at will for however many we need, whenever we need them. So I'm going to put these all into one heavy-duty zip top bag. Now, a lot of companies sell freezer bags. You don't need those, no real difference. What is important, however, is that we remove as much of this air as possible. Anytime air comes in contact with frozen foods, it is a bad thing. We're going to suffer moisture loss. So again, I'll employ the straw. There. Now, if you will remove the air every time you get out some peas, you'll be able to keep these garden fresh for up to a year. Believe it or not, how you choose to bring your frozen cash back to culinary life greatly affects the quality. Now, a slow thaw in the fridge is best because it allows time for the food to reabsorb some of the moisture that might be lost due to internal ice crystallization. And of course, the cold environment will help prevent any reawakening surface bacteria from running rampant. Now, since condensation usually leads to drippage, always thaw in clean, watertight containers such as these. Now, the downside to this system, of course, is time. It could take 12 to 24 hours for a couple of steaks to thoroughly thaw. Luckily, we've got some ways around that. If you've seen our award-winning duck episode, you'll no doubt recall that cold water is a very efficient thawing medium, especially if it's moving a little, has a little convection going for it. Now, the peaches can thaw exactly as they are. The steaks, which should be in a separate container, of course, from fruits and vegetables, should be taken out of the foil and moved into zip-top bags and then submerged with something nice and heavy. I just like to use a little rock there. As for the water, if you don't want to leave it running, you're going to want to replace it with cold water every 20 minutes or so. Of course, in the case of the peaches, I doubt that it's going to take more than that to thaw a bag. In the case of the steak, well, depending on thickness, maybe up to an hour. As for the peas, well, just dose them out straight from the bag into whatever you're cooking. They will thaw quickly enough. Well, America, I hope that we've inspired you to cast a new gaze upon the powerful ally that is your freezer. Think of it as a bank account that you can load up with assets which are frozen and yet earn interest at the same time. Learn to keep the right things on hand in here, and good eats will never be more than a few steps away. See you next time.